to get a bigger sound, Felipe, we were just talking about that. How do you pull the sound out of the instrument? The sound is where you're going to get the power, where you're going to fill up the space, you know. And I notice when a lot of drummers play, they're not hitting the snare drum properly. They're kind of either digging into it or they're using too much energy. They're not letting the sticks work for them. And, you know, there are a lot of great drummers that don't incorporate the full stroke. I learned this from Joe Morello years ago in the 90s, this using the stick to work for you technique. But the thing is, you can still play drums and not have this technique. There are a lot of amazing drummers out there that don't play with the full stroke, which I'm going to show you in a second. Like Levon Helm, you know, he hits into the drum. He still sounded amazing, you know. Bill Ward from Black Sabbath didn't necessarily have the best technique in the world. But what I'm basically trying to say is this is just something that can help you. It's not necessary, but it can help you achieve a bigger sound. So anyway, so basically this is called a full stroke, and I learned this from Joe Morello, and this basically changed my playing. It's when you actually hit the drum and you let the natural rebound of the stick come back up on its own. So I'm not going, I'm making one stroke and the rebound of the stick is coming back on its own. Okay? So I'm starting up here and the stick comes back. I'm not going like this. This is down, up. That's two strokes. This is one, two motions. This is one motion. Okay? So whenever I'm hitting a drum, I'm always letting the weight of the stick bring the stick back up again. Now it actually looks easier than it is. It's not easy at all. It actually, I did this for months to get the stick to come back up like that. Okay? Now, I'm exaggerating the full stroke. I'm letting it come all the way back here just to show you. I mean, I don't play like this, but this is how it works. You see how fluid that looks? So what I'm doing is I'm actually pulling the sound out of the drum. So if I put my hands together like this, you see how my hands are like I'm barely doing anything? You don't see me going like this. So a lot of the rudiments that I play are all based on just the natural rebound of the stick. You know. You notice there's not a lot of effort. I'm not sweating, I'm not using anything up here. So I'm using the efficiency of the stick. Now obviously, if I go into a full lesson on the full stroke, it would take up 2 hours, like to really discuss, right? I mean, this is a whole nother thing in itself. I'm not going to get into huge detail on it, but I just wanted to kind of explain the basics, you know? And a lot of times, when I try to teach the full stroke to a student, sometimes they don't get it right away. They don't really understand how the stick bounces back. So I've seen Joe Morello taught me this. They put the stick between your fingers like that, and just go like this, just so you can kind of feel, like you see how it's bouncing back on its own like that? You know when you drop like a quarter or a penny, it's like, and it starts bouncing super, super fast. That's kind of like the idea with this, like you're just letting this stick. Look at this. I'm not doing really anything, but you can't play drums like this, you know? So, but that's the idea, that's the same feeling you want to get. Now obviously this has to do with the way you hold your stick, which is another lesson in itself. When I play, I was taught to always keep a gap between my hands like this. Like a lot of drummers play like this. What happens here is you're choking up the stick and you don't get the natural rebound of the stick when you're choked up like that. When you have your hand like this, you can get the stick to come back up on its own. These are actually new sticks. They don't have any like sweat or anything, so they're kind of loose. You know that feeling when you got the new sticks and they're all slippery, but you know. See? Yeah, my hands on it like this. So I'm getting that rebound without doing much. I'm not going. Look how much more effort. Waste of energy. Try playing shows, try doing a tour, playing like this every night and see what happens. You know? That's why a lot of rock and roll drummers have like carpal tunnel and all sorts of, you know, because they didn't learn the proper technique. So anyway, so a good way to, you know, to first see how you do this is just put the stick between your hands and it feels weird, kind of like riding a bike balance. So you just go like this and you feel it. That feeling, it actually feels good when it rebounds on its own. It feels like a natural, right, Felipe? Doesn't it? It feels like a natural, explain.
Well, I guess when I started playing, I did the same thing everybody else kind of does when they first pick up sticks. You just hit it, right? But then when I wanted it to come back, I'd force it up. So when I started doing that, I went, wow, it's like you're using both gravity and the weight of where you're holding the stick. But I was going to ask you actually, where do you like to hold the stick so that it's like, you know, seesaw effect?
Okay, well I like to, and that's a good question, and I want you guys to interact and ask questions because we have a small group here, so it works better that way. I personally like to hold the stick around here. Now I've seen great drummers hold the sticks up here, man. I've seen Brian Blade play like this, and he sounds freaking amazing. So, can you still play without this technique? Yes. But I like to hold it here because if you go too far back, there's too much leverage. The weight of the stick is down here. So you're kind of like, you're holding the end, but the stick feels heavy because you have all of this down here. If you play too much in the middle, then you're not getting the stick to work for you. You know what I mean? You're too far in, so the balance point of the stick is kind of thrown off. You're like here. It's like the middle of a seesaw. You stand in the middle, it's not going anywhere. You know, you stand too close to the end, you flip with the other person up. You know, so I like to go, I play Los Angeles 5A models, so I like to keep my hand, my thumb right about here, maybe a little bit of this, the butt end of the stick here, to help me just keep the stick in place.
Pete, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
With everything you're doing, you mentioned how it would be natural, you know, and it moves kind of naturally. When did you find that the sound became different, if at all?
On recordings, listening back, also in terms of not getting tired. I wouldn't get as tired. Guys, put your earplugs in. I'm going to actually play the real drum here and I'll show you. Felipe, thanks for helping.